On March 31st, 2014, millions of fans tuned in to watch the highly anticipated series finale of How I Met Your Mother. For 9 years, the entire internet had been obsessively debating, theorizing, and agonizing over one single question: who was the mother? But what the audience didn't know, what almost no one in Hollywood knew, was that the answer to this massive television mystery wasn't a mystery at all. Because exactly 8 years earlier, in a locked, highly secure room, 2 teenagers were handed a secret script. They filmed the exact ending of the show, signed ironclad legal documents, and were forced to live a double life, keeping the biggest secret in pop culture for nearly a decade. This is the story of the How I Met Your Mother time capsule. And what happened behind the scenes is a masterclass in production paranoia, legal threats, and a controversial ending that literally cursed the show. Before we get into the Men in Black level security stuff that kept this secret buried, you need to understand the terrifying production problem that made all of this happen in the first place. How I Met Your Mother wasn't built like Friends or Seinfeld. It was set up as a mystery comedy. The whole story was told through the eyes of future Ted in the year 2030, looking back and recounting a wild journey to his 2 kids, Penny and Luke. Every single episode was like a puzzle piece, and those 2 kids, played by Lindsay Fonseca and David Henry, were basically the audience's stand-ins on screen. Their eye rolls and bored reactions were everything because they sold the show's core magic trick. This giant, 208-episode story was supposedly all happening in a single afternoon. But here is where TV magic crashes. In the made-up world of the show, only a few hours pass on that couch. In the real world, 9 whole years were ticking away. The creators, Carter Bays and Craig Thomas, were staring down an unavoidable nightmare. Kids grow up. If the show turned into a long-running hit, the child actors would literally outgrow their roles before future Ted ever wrapped up his story. By the time the series hit its 9th season, Henry and Fonseca would be in their mid-20s. That biological reality would have completely blown up the illusion of them being teenagers stuck on a couch for an afternoon. In 2006, during the filming of Season 2, the producers hit a breaking point. The kids on the couch problem became a full-blown emergency. David Henry especially was growing at rocket speed. Production notes revealed that Henry's voice dropped and he shot up 4 entire shoe sizes during that 2nd season alone. Carter Bays and Craig Thomas realized they were at the point of no return. If they didn't capture the final footage of the series right then and there, the physical differences between the kids in the pilot and the kids in the finale would be way too obvious for even the most forgiving viewer to overlook. They had to hit the panic button. They had to freeze the kids in time. So they did something that had basically never been done in modern television. They brought 16-year-old David Henry and 18-year-old Lindsay Fonseca into a locked-down room to film a 2-minute scene that nobody would see for 8 more years. This was not a regular Tuesday on the CBS studio lot. The filming of the final scene was done under conditions of extreme paranoia, almost like a big-budget Hollywood blockbuster with something truly priceless to protect. To make sure this massive twist didn't leak to the blogosphere, the production team locked things down completely. They cleared the set of all non-essential people. The regular crew? Gone. The writers? Kicked out. The other cast members? Banned. The only people allowed in that room for the filming of the final lines were the creators, Carter Bays and Craig Thomas, executive producer and director Pamela Fryman, and a single trusted camera operator. Now, think about how scripts normally flow on a TV show. Usually scripts get handed out to the entire cast and crew for a big table read. But this scene was so sensitive that the final lines for the children were never even printed or shared around. The teenagers were handed their dialogue on the spot, the cameras rolled, and the footage was immediately pulled from the cameras and locked away in secure storage. This whole operation was so tight and so airtight that even the show's actual adult stars, Josh Radnor and Kobe Smulders, were completely shut out. They weren't allowed to see the footage, and they wouldn't know the specific lines spoken for several years. But you can't just trust 2 teenagers to guard the biggest secret on television based on a pinky promise. The silence was locked down through ironclad non-disclosure agreements. These weren't your standard run-of-the-mill confidentiality forms. These were targeted, aggressive legal weapons specifically designed to stop anyone from revealing the show's ultimate twist, that the mother was dead, and that Ted was secretly asking for permission to date Robin. David Henry later talked about the intense legal and professional pressure that came with those NDAs. For young actors trying to build their careers in Hollywood, the threat of a massive career-ending lawsuit from a giant network like CBS was genuinely terrifying. The stakes were incredibly high, especially for Henry, whose star was rising fast through other massive TV projects, making him a prime target for spoiler hunters everywhere. What followed was a 9-year psychological marathon. The stretch between 2006 and 2014 forced David Henry and Lindsay Fonseca to live a professional double life. While the entire world went crazy debating the identity of the mother in forums and comment sections, these two actors had already seen the finish line. Let's look at David Henry's world during this time. His career absolutely took off. He became a massive fixture on the Disney Channel, starring as Justin Russo in the wildly popular Wizards of Waverly Place. This created a genuinely bizarre double existence. He was a beloved teen idol working for a younger crowd while secretly carrying the dark, gut-punch conclusion to one of the world's most watched adult sitcoms. Henry has talked openly about how hard it was to navigate this double life. By the time he hit his early 20s, around the show's 6th or 7th season, fans were constantly hunting him down for information. This was just before social media completely took over leak culture, but the hunger for How I Met Your Mother spoilers was absolutely out of control. Let me tell you a story that perfectly sums up how wild this spoiler culture got. Henry shared on the George Janko Show podcast what would happen once he turned 21. He would regularly get approached at bars by grown adult fans who recognized him as the kid from the couch. These fans weren't just coming up to say hi. They would offer to buy him free drinks, straight up telling him to his face that their whole plan was to get him tipsy enough to accidentally spill the identity of the mother. Think about how aggressive that is. Fans were literally trying to get a young actor drunk just to ruin a secret, completely ignoring both his personal space and the very real threat of his network NDA. Henry stayed strong because of professional integrity and a very healthy fear of what CBS's legal team would do to him. Lindsay Fonseca, on the other hand, handled the pressure in a totally different way. As her own career grew into action-heavy roles in projects like Nikita and Kick-Ass, she genuinely mentally stepped away from that locked room in 2006. Fonseca admitted in multiple interviews that as the years went by, she legitimately forgot the specific details of what they had filmed. She joked that it was the ultimate defense. You can't leak what your brain no longer holds onto. This mental distancing protected her from the constant flood of fan questions. In fact, when she finally watched the reveal of the mother, played by Kristen Milioti, she experienced it just like a regular fan, only feeling a small spark of recognition because she had previously seen Milioti perform on Broadway. While Henry and Fonseca were dodging fans, the creators of the show were running a masterclass in public misdirection. They knew the internet was sharp. They knew that if fans ever figured out that the ending had been locked in a vault back in 2006, people would instantly connect the dots and realize the story was never really about the mother. They would figure out it was a pre-planned bait and switch. So throughout the show's run, the producers lied. When journalists constantly asked how they planned to deal with the obvious aging of the kids, the creators and actors deployed a very specific cover story. They repeatedly told the press that they had simply filmed generic reactions, or various stock footage. They claimed they grabbed standard facial expressions to give themselves wiggle room. They even floated the idea that we can change the ending if we need to, and claimed the kids didn't actually know the real secret. But that was completely made up. The 2006 session was not a grab bag of generic reaction shots. The creators filmed a very specific dialogue-heavy scene where the children explicitly tell Ted they understand the story is really about his love for Aunt Robin, and they give him their blessing to go pursue her. By pushing the stock footage story, the creators successfully protected their twist, keeping the world in the dark for almost an entire decade. But here is where the brilliance of the time capsule flips into a total disaster. The 2006 footage didn't just preserve the ending, it cursed the show. When Carter Bays and Craig Thomas filmed that ending in 2006, How I Met Your Mother was not yet a global sensation. During its first 2 seasons, it was constantly on the bubble, meaning the creators genuinely had no idea if it would even get picked up beyond 3 or 4 seasons. They locked in that ending with the mindset of a smaller, more experimental, indie-style comedy. In 2006, Ted and Robin had just split up. The audience was deeply invested in their back-and-forth romance, and an ending that brought things back to Robin felt touching and right. But the show didn't end in 4 seasons. It became a massive broadcast hit that ran for 9 years and 208 episodes. To fill all those middle seasons, the writers had to cook up new love interests, elaborate backstories, and crucially, deep character work for the supporting cast, especially Barney Stinson and Robin Scherbatsky. The actors and their characters kept growing in incredible, natural ways that the creators had never planned for back in 2006, Barney, played brilliantly by Neil Patrick Harris, went from a one-note joke to a man capable of genuine love and commitment. The chemistry between Barney and Robin became the beating heart of the series, eventually culminating in a final season in which 22 full episodes were dedicated to their wedding weekend. Ted, after 8 exhausting seasons of searching, finally found Tracy, the perfect woman. But sitting in a vault in Los Angeles was a piece of footage from 2006 that demanded all of that growth be thrown in the trash. Because the 2006 footage required Robin to be free and available for Ted in 2030, the writers were forced to manufacture a divorce between Barney and Robin in the finale. Because the footage centered on Ted loving Robin, they had to kill off Tracy, the actual mother the whole show was supposedly about, in a quick montage. The existence of the 2006 footage created a massive sunk cost trap in the writers' room. They felt glued to that specific vision from 8 years earlier. Instead of letting the ending breathe and grow to match the natural chemistry of the cast, like keeping Barney and Robin together or just letting Ted be happy, they hit the eject button on 9 years of character development just so they could use the footage they shot with 2 teenagers in a locked room. When the adult cast finally found out what was hiding in the vault, their reactions said everything. Kobe Smulders, who had lived inside Robin Scherbatsky for nearly a decade, described the shock of finding out how the show ended. When she learned about the mother's fate and the forced pivot back to Robin, she described it as a moment of ugly crying. Allison Hannigan, who played Lily, was openly critical once the smoke cleared. In 2017, she revealed that the finale table read ran for a grueling 14 hours. But when she saw the final 44-minute broadcast version, she was devastated, saying they cut out everything. Hannigan specifically mourned a cut funeral scene for the mother. She argued that audiences desperately needed that time to sit with the death, grieve Tracy, and have their hearts truly broken. Instead, the show jumped straight from a death montage to the 2006 footage of the kids giving Ted the green light to pursue Robin, giving the audience zero time to catch their breath. It was just a slap in the face. Even more telling, Hannigan pushed back on the show's middle seasons entirely, saying Barney and Robin never should have gotten married in the first place, because she always believed Robin belonged with Ted. She saw clearly that the massive wedding season directly clashed with the ending that had been sitting in a vault the whole time. Neil Patrick Harris, on the other hand, was the one defender of the ending in the group. He repeatedly went on the record saying that Carter and Craig had known the ending for years and had been quietly steering toward it the whole time. He defended the choice to completely reset Barney's arc, having him slide back to his playboy lifestyle before accidentally having a daughter from a one-night stand as genuine character growth. But as most fans pointed out, it felt more like character destruction in service of a predetermined plot point. Josh Radnor tried to reframe the backlash, famously claiming that fans were mixing up anger with grief. He argued that if Ted and Tracy had simply walked off into the sunset together, people would have called it a soft and too easy fairy tale ending. But that defense completely misses the point. Fans weren't just sad the mother died. They were furious that the show blew up its own evolution to serve a stubborn, outdated blueprint. Also, now bringing that outdated blueprint to life in 2014 was a massive technical headache. TV technology had jumped forward significantly in those 8 years. The 2006 footage of the kids was shot in standard definition, with different color settings and early 2000s lighting setups. Post-production editors had to do serious digital cleanup work, desperately trying to match the grain, contrast, and color of the 2006 footage to the crisp, high-definition cameras used in the later seasons. They had to make footage shot 8 years apart look like it all happened on the exact same afternoon. But no amount of color correction could patch up the story-level damage. The backlash to the broadcast finale was so intense and so immediate that the creators had to pull out a backup plan. 6 months later, on the Season 9 DVD, they released an alternate ending. But here's the devastating truth about that alternate ending. It contained absolutely zero new footage. It was literally just the broadcast episode, re-edited to cut off the final 3 minutes. The mother's death was gone. The 2006 footage of the kids was completely removed. The blue French horn was nowhere to be seen. It just ended with Ted and Tracy meeting at the train station in the rain. The fact that the creators could produce a widely loved, happy ending simply by deleting the 2006 time capsule tells you everything you need to know. The controversial stuff, the things that wrecked the legacy of the show for millions of fans, was entirely tied to that one afternoon back in Season 2. They chose the ending that asked fans to accept that Tracy was just a stepping stone. The creators, Carter Bays and Craig Thomas, eventually went mostly quiet on the whole mess. Unlike the creators of Lost or The Sopranos, who did big press tours to stand behind their tricky finales, Bays and Thomas sent a few tweets thanking the fans and then basically disappeared. Years later, at a TV festival, they refused to apologize, holding firm that it was the ending they had always planned. And maybe that is the most maddening truth of all. They got exactly what they wanted, and they simply did not care about the fallout. The decision to film the How I Met Your Mother ending in 2006 remains one of the most daring, technically impressive, and ultimately damaging production choices in television history. By successfully keeping that secret for 9 years, David Henry and Lindsay Fonseca demonstrated a level of professional discipline that is virtually unheard of among young actors. They pulled off a storytelling long game that no other sitcom has ever even tried, but the time capsule was a poisoned gift. How I Met Your Mother is still a beloved show, but when people recommend it today, there's always a warning attached. Stop at season 8, or watch the DVD alternate ending. The show stands as the definitive case study in what happens when creators value their original, rigid blueprint over the living, breathing evolution of their own characters.